Yeah, welcome back everyone. My name is Ololi Godwin. This is Emoji Economics, in case you are a new member. Yeah, so goods and money markets combined. Oh, sorry for that. This is part 2. Yeah, this is part 2. And in this particular class, we're talking about effect of a change in G, that is government spending and money supply, on the goods and money markets combined. Effect of a change in government spending and money supply on the goods and money markets combined. So this class is actually divided into 2. So first I'll be talking about the effect of a change in government spending, and the government spending is talking about an increase in government spending. And after I'm done with that, so we are going to talk about an effect of a change in money supply, and it's also an increase in money supply as well. So there is a comparison that I want to make at the end of the video. That is why I want this class to go together. So it is very important for you to see this video till the very end. Mind you, if you are new in the video here, please make sure you click that subscribe button and the like button. Then you see a bell that appears after the subscribe button. Please click on it. It is to notify you when new classes are made available. Alright, so and I would like to see your face again as a new member. So now let's come back to what we've started to do. This is going to be the 6th class on the ISLM model. So if this is the very first class you're seeing on Emoji Economics YouTube channel, well, it's better to be late than never, right? Is that what you say? Whatever it is, if you correct me if you want. Okay. Better late than never, something like that. So what you have to do is to go back to our playlist section. Pause this video right now because you may not understand a lot of things. So go back to the playlist section and click on the ISLM. Type Emoji Economics on YouTube. So when it displays, go to the playlist section, open it, and find the playlist on the ISLM model. Basically, you should find the playlist on the goods markets, money and the money market, and then ISLM model. So when you are done attending those classes, they are not too much for you. When you are done attending those classes, then you can come and attend this particular one for your own good. It's to aid your understanding. But if you feel like, okay, why not start from me? I'm a big boy, I'm a big girl. What problem? Yeah. Okay, so goods and money market combined parts. So effect of a change in government spending and money. So let us start with effect of a change in government spending. And like I said earlier, I was talking about effect of an increase in government spending. So first, where do we find G? Is G in the IS relation or in the LM relation? Now you see, some of you are lost because this is the very first video you are saying what's IS relation, what's LM relation. Anyway, that's why you have to go back to those previous classes. They are not big deals anyway. So what is IS relation? We have Y equals C bracket, Y plus C, what we've been doing before. So and that is where we find G. So G is in IS relation and it's not in the LM relation. Okay, so that means G is going to have an influence on the IS curve, but it's not a change in government spending. We have an influence on the IS curve, it's not going to have any effect on the LM curve. So that is what it simply means. Now let us consider a rise in G. So what will be the effect of the rise in G? Government spending rises, basically, right? Then aggregate expenditure is going to rise simply because government spending is a part of aggregate expenditure. AE equals C plus I plus G. So if G is rising and other things are being equal, so AE has to rise as well. Alright, so AE rises, then equilibrium output rises. You know, government is pumping more money to circulate, trying to buy things and all of that. And basically those things they are buying are from the investor components, the investment component. So that will lead to a rise in the equilibrium output in the goods market. Now, what would that cause? A rise in the equilibrium output in the goods market means more money, more income for people in the economy, more income for the companies, more income for the individuals that are working for the companies, and all of that. So income rises. When income rises, consumption rises. I believe you get that. So households spend more of their income. Income is rising. Tax didn't change, right? Okay, so if tax didn't change, then if income rises and tax did not change, disposable income rises. As this consumption is directly related to disposable income, so an increase in disposable income will lead to an increase in the average consumption. I'm talking about the total economy. But remember that the NPC is not equal to 1, so individuals will end up saying half of their additional income. So they don't consume all. So, but what we are just trying to tell ourselves now is that consumption is going to rise, but not as much as the increase in income. Of course, you have to save some of it. Now, when we're talking about the multiplier, when we're talking about the multiplier, and you'll find the video in the goods market. Yeah, you find the video in the goods market. You haven't seen it before. So, what does the multiplier mean? What does it do? So, we'll talk about that in the goods market. So, and the NPC and all of that. How NPC will not, why NPC will not be 0, and NPC is not going to be equal to 1. It's just going to be between 0 and 1. The same thing as NPS. Same thing as NPS. Okay, so G, consumption rises. I remember that investment is also dependent on output. All right, output on sales. This is it. So at the end of the day, an increase in Y that occurred because there was an increase in G, there was an increase in C, would eventually lead to an increase in I as well. So all of these things will continue based on the size of the multiplier in the economy until AE eventually shifts, to a new. So AE starts to shift when G rose. When G rises, AE would rise. Okay, the AE curve will shift upwards. You have a new output, so which is what you have initially here. So G is rising, AE is rising, so there will be a shift of the curve. Then that will eventually lead to an increase in this. So the curve will shift again based on. So now it will shift again because C is rising, I is rising, and then G is rising. So the curve will continue to shift based on the size of the multiplier until it gets to a final position. Okay. So before we then go into the effect of the rising money supply, let us just talk about this number one. The number one here, so AE2 is not actually AE2. AE2 is like the final position of the average expenditure curve after the multiplier is taking all of its effect. So it's more or less like AE1, AE1.1, AE1.2, AE1.3, AE1.33, if you have something like that. So AE increases like that until it finally gets to this particular position. Now at the old AE, this is our autonomous consumption. For the first AE curve, and this is autonomous expenditure rather, and this is our autonomous expenditure for the new AE curve. So now when that's the old AE curve, so at the point where it is intersecting the 45-degree line, this is it. So we have Y1. Okay, so we trace Y1 down to the IS curve. We've talked about IS curve, so this is not a big deal now. So we trace that one here. Alright, so this is happening at a particular interest rate. So one interest rate that changed initially, so the government spending. So output is this at this particular interest rate. Okay, good. Now that there has been, now that AE has increased, as AE is shifting after every of these consumption, increase in consumption, increase in investment, and all of that has been considered. So we have AE shifting to this particular curve. Now, why is the new AE curve intersecting the Y curve? Okay, the 45-degree line curve, it is doing that here. So AE curve shifts upwards, brings it here. You trace this down. Where's my blue marker? You trace this down. So we have another equilibrium. We have another equilibrium in the goods market. Okay, based on the intersection that happens here. So we have the Y, then you trace that down to get what is eventually happening to your IS curve. So you trace that down to this point. So Y1 increases to Y2, which is meaning that what is happening, Y1 increases to Y2. You remember that on this curve we have average expenditure on the vertical axis, and on this curve we have the interest rate on this axis. So in determining, in sketching your IS curve, I has to be here, interest rate, output has to be here. In sketching your average expenditure curve, AE has to be here and Y has to be there. So that is not about that. Now that Y2 is increasing, okay, to this particular point, we trace that down here. Now all of these things are happening at a particular interest rate. The interest rate didn't change, it was government spending that changed. Alright, so as this interest rate does not change, we have this new Y. So where will this Y intersects this old interest rate? So we trace that here to this point. This is where they are meeting. So Y2 is meeting I1 at this point, and that's where the IS curve is going to be. So IS curve shifts outwards. That is the first thing that you should note, that when there is an increase in government spending, the IS curve shifts outwards or rightwards or whatever it is that you want to call it. Okay. So then we get to the third curve. Under this, the third curve is the equilibrium that occurs in the goods and money markets combined. Alright, so at first, before anything changed, before there was a change in G and the subsequent changes, this was what we had, or this is what we have. IS curve is intersecting the LM curve, and there is already an equilibrium. So as this equilibrium interest rate and equilibrium output. Alright, so from there, we then move to when the IS curve has now shifted. Okay, the IS curve has now shifted. So we are no longer at this equilibrium. There has to be a new equilibrium now. There was nothing was changing. Okay, here. So that's why we have this curve. But now that IS curve is changing, so we have to show that change on the new graph and find out what the new equilibrium is. So we come to this point. Okay, so this is the old IS curve, which is still IS. Where is my back? Okay, is this no? Okay. So this happens to be the old IS curve, same as what we have here. Now shifting to a new position because that's shifted there because of the increase in government spending there. Then we have the LM curve remaining the same. The LM curve is the same. So what is the final answer? We discover that okay, when you bring the new IS curve, it is intersecting the old LM curve or the initial LM curve at a new point, this point. So when you trace this point out, it gives you a higher output, and when you trace it to this case, it gives you a higher equilibrium interest rate. So at the end of the day, an increase in government spending, other things being equal, in the goods and money market, will lead to a rise in the equilibrium interest rate as well as a rise in the equilibrium output. Alright, so that is the effect of this at the end of the day. So like I said in the previous class, the class preceding this, that we don't have to explain this on the isolation at the end of the day. So now that we have an increase in the equilibrium interest rate and an increase in the equilibrium output. So where do we have output at first? So we have output here, or income or whatever. So Y is increasing, T didn't change. So disposable income as consumption definitely increases. Okay, that's certain. But the government spending increased. Okay, so government spending finally increases basically. And then we talked about what's happening to investment. Now, investment would rise because there's an increase in the equilibrium output. Okay, and investment would fall because there is an increase in equilibrium interest rate as well. So what is going to finally happen to investment? We don't know. It depends on the strength of the increase in interest rates and the strength of the increase in output. So if the strength of output is greater than the strength of interest rate, investment will rise, and if the strength of interest and increase in interest rate is greater than the effect of an increase in output or sales, investment will fall. Remember that a lower interest rate leads to a higher investment, and a higher Y leads to a higher investment. So now that I is increasing, so a higher interest rate leads to a low investment, and a higher output leads to a high investment. So you're having low and high. So it now depends on the strength of the two. Okay, on the investment. So that's about that. All right. And remember that that's explaining what happens when eyes are shifted. Now remember that there is a movement, an upward movement. Okay, there's an upward movement on the LM curve. So this was the initial point on this LM curve. So it moves to this point. So there's an upward shift of the IS curve at the end of the day, and an upward movement of the LM curve. So now, why is there an upward movement of the LM curve? Output has increased basically, so people will be spending more money. So people's demand for money should rise. Of course, people's demand for money should rise because output has increased, so they want to spend more of their money in the goods market, and that is eventually going to lead to, that's what is responsible for the movement that is occurring along the LM curve. Okay, I believe there isn't a problem with that. Now let's move to the second one: effect of a rise in money supply on the goods and money markets combined. So let us see, there's going to be a difference. Now, the first thing that I explained here is the effect of an increase in government spending, which is basically what an expansionary fiscal policy. Yeah, that's it. So when you increase your government spending, then you are pursuing an expansionary fiscal policy. It's either you do that by increasing the government spending, or you are reducing the taxes, or you are doing both at the same time. But here we are just increasing the government spending. Now, we want to consider an increase in money supply, which is an expansionary monetary policy. So we want to know, according to the ISLM analysis, which is better for an economy? Is it an increase in government spending? Is it an expansionary fiscal policy or an expansionary monetary policy? So let us see. Okay. So effect of the rise in money supply, MS. So an increase in money supply will increase real money supply, because real money supply is MS over P, and if the numerator is rising and there is no change in the denominator, the entire fraction rises. Now in case you have a difficulty in understanding what I'm trying to say, if you have 6 over 2, 6 over 2 is 3, where 6 represents the money supply, and if 6 increases to 10 and the denominator is not changing, the entire fraction becomes what? 5. So 3 has increased to 5. So that's what I'm trying to say. So you have an increase in money supply leading to an increase in the real money supply. Alright, so this is for number 2. We then have the curve of the money market. Now, because there is no money supply in the IS relation, or is there MS here? There's no MS. So that is trying to tell us that the IS curve is not going to shift. The IS curve is the same. Okay, the position of the IS curve is the same. But because there is MS here, okay, MS over EMD whatever in the LM relation, so something is going to happen in the money markets. Okay, and that's what we have here. So you are coming to the money market. We won't talk about the goods market. There's no change there. So we come to the money market. Now, I believe we already know how we draw it. So real money demand is a decreasing function of the interest rate, and then real money supply is not dependent on interest rate at all. And on this axis, what you have is the net output. What you have here is real money balance, and what you have here is the interest rate group. Okay, so now An increase in money supply is going to lead to a shift of the money supply curve, of the money supply curve, an outward shift of the money supply curve, and that eventually leads to what? When you cross it with the old money demand curve that didn't change, the money demand curve that didn't change, there is a new equilibrium, intersection in the money market again now. So interest rate is going to reduce, and the money balance will increase. So interest rate is reducing here, I1 to I2, and money balance is increasing. At least from here to this point, I believe that's we don't have a problem with that. So now okay, what about the LM curve? Okay, so what implication does this have on the LM curve? Since there is an increase in, since there is an upward shift of the real money supply curve, and that is leading to a lower interest rate, did output change? Why? Did Y change? No, nobody's talking about Y. So we then break that down to the LM curve. So to plot the LM curve, just as the IS as well, you have the interest rate on the vertical axis and the output on the horizontal axis. Okay, so it was interest rate that reduced, so I reduces to I2. Okay, as the same output. Okay, because we're talking about the initial reaction at the same output. So I1 falls to I2 at the same. So it is I1 that is falling to I2. The output is still the same. So I1 is intersecting I2 at this point, and I1 is intersecting Y1 at this point, sorry, and then I2 is still intersecting, I2 is now intersecting Y1 at this point. Okay, so by the time you plot that, you have a shift of the LM curve, which is an outward shift, what you can call a downward shift or a rightward shift of the LM curve from this point to this point. Now, some people sketch a shift of the LM curve this way, which is not correct. Okay, so you have this is Y, you have this is I. So what they just do is this is the LM curve, and then they plot a shift this way, and what they just try to do is this is Y1 and this is Y2, and they call this a shift. Now this is wrong. This is theoretically wrong simply because it is not output that is increasing. So here you are assuming interest rate is the same and output is rising. No, this is not how to plot it. This is not how to sketch the graph. How to sketch the graph is I1 is changing, the interest rate is changing, but the output is the same. Alright, so don't just plot anything, don't just sketch anything because you feel like, because you don't really understand it. You have to follow what the theory is saying and your explanation as well. Okay, they have to tell it. So please don't sketch this is wrong. Sketch that one. Now, then we move to the third graph, which is just trying to tell us what happened before there was a change at all. What happened in the goods and money market combined before there was a change at all in any of the curves. So we have LM intersecting IS. Okay, they are already at their equilibrium. Nothing is changing. You have the equilibrium interest rate and the equilibrium output. But then LM is now changing. Okay, now that LM is changing, so we have to. There's going to be a change in this. Okay, there will be a change in this. So we sketch that out here. Okay, now LM is this IS is same as this IS. This LM is same as this LM. But now LM is changing its position. It's shifting outwards. So we plot that out. That's okay. LM is shifting here. So at the old. We already know what happened at the old equilibrium rate. Old equilibrium rather. So this is this and this. But now as the new equilibrium, look at it. LM is the new LM is intersecting the old IS at this point. So you trace it out. There is a lower equilibrium interest rate and there is a higher equilibrium output. A lower equilibrium interest rate and there is a higher equilibrium output. So that is what is occurring there. Now look at the answer that we have here. We had a higher equilibrium interest rate and a higher equilibrium output. A higher equilibrium interest rate and a higher equilibrium output for an expansionary fiscal policy. And for an expansionary monetary policy, we have what? A lower equilibrium interest rate and a higher output. As the results are not the same. Okay. Now, what is the implication of this? The implication of this is that, of course, Y is eventually rising, right? So consumption is going to rise. Since Y is eventually rising, consumption will rise. Government spending. Did government spending? No. Okay. So government spending is the same. Nothing is happening to it. And of course, money supply increased and all of that. So here, what is going to happen to investments when there is an expansionary monetary policy? There is a lower equilibrium interest rate, so that is going to increase investment. Do you understand? So interest rate is low, it's to increase investment, and there is a higher output. So higher output will increase investment as well. So it is definite that under the expansionary monetary policy, investments will increase. So that's just the difference I want to point out. The difference I want to point out is that You don't really know what's going to happen to investments when you are using an expansionary fiscal policy, but when you are using an expansionary monetary policy based on the ISLM analysis, investments will definitely rise. Okay, simply because a lower equilibrium interest rates will increase investment, and a higher output will increase investment. So we are sure what is going to happen. Alright, so at the end of the day, there is a shift of the LM curve downwards and a downward movement on the IS curve. Okay, so what do I want to say? People have more money now, so they can go to the goods markets. The central bank of the country has started to pump more money to circulation, and people have more money. Okay, so they go to the goods market to buy output, and that is leading to what is happening here. Okay, in the movement that is occurring here, output is increasing from Y1 to Y2. Alright, so that's that about that. If you have any question about the ISLM model, the ISLM analysis, the ISLM topic, when the economy is closed, okay, please leave your question in the comment section. If you really enjoyed this video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Okay, if you did not enjoy this video, just leave it alone. You don't have to click anything, just leave it alone. But if you really enjoyed this video and you want more of our classes, click the subscribe button, turn on notifications, tell your friends about this. Don't just hold this information to yourself alone. We are providing this information for everybody, for as many as will subscribe to this channel, and we want a lot of people to know about it and learn. Understand. So our primary goal is to make the understanding of economics better, as long as you are an undergraduate, an undergraduate student or a college student. So thank you very much. I would like to see you next time. Bye for now.